Welcome to this explainer. Right now, across the enterprise landscape, there's this massive, persistent assumption that's just quietly derailing AI deployments left and right. We somehow assume that we can train these cutting-edge AI models using the exact same legacy IT workflows, like those classic flowcharts and swim lanes that we've been using for decades. But as we're going to uncover today, relying on those traditional workflows makes your AI technically functional, sure, but entirely operationally blind. There's a brilliant quote that perfectly captures the core failure mode we're dealing with here. It goes, AI models trained on traditional IT workflows learn the shape of a process. They do not learn the substance. I mean, that hits the nail right on the head, doesn't it? When we feed an AI these old-school flowcharts and step-by-step documentation, it definitely learns the sequence of events. It learns the shape, but it completely misses the substance. It spits out information that follows the steps absolutely, but is totally disconnected from your actual business objectives. And why? Because a traditional workflow never actually tells the AI why a process exists in the first place. So, what's the root of this mismatch? Well, it comes down to a really fundamental difference. Traditional IT? It's completely deterministic. It relies on super strict rules, fixed inputs, highly predictable outputs, and that classic binary yes or no logic mapping. AI, on the other hand, is probabilistic. A large language model doesn't just execute a rigid, pre-programmed workflow. It iterates, it self-adjusts. And because of that, it desperately needs context, intent, and causal logic to actually function properly. AI learns relationships from data, so the quality of what it learns is dictated entirely by the quality of the context we give it. Section 1, the traditional workflow trap. Why BPMN and flowcharts fail AI. When organizations actually try to force probabilistic AI into that deterministic traditional IT box, three very distinct failure modes pop up. First, we get sequence without meaning. The AI learns exactly what step comes next, but has no idea why, which effectively hides the actual purpose behind the process. Second, we end up with data without context. Sure, the AI might know the field names and data types perfectly, but the actual business meaning, like what that data measures and why it even matters, is just completely absent. And third, rules without causality. Decision logic gets mapped out as simple binary conditions, but the actual causal relationship between a process input and a real-world business outcome, completely missing in action. And then there's the hidden nightmare of traditional workflows, the crushing maintenance burden. Traditional, highly detailed workflows basically assume process stability. They assume things stay fixed and static. But contrast that with reality for a second. Real business environments, whether that's manufacturing, aerospace, or services, they are incredibly volatile. Things change constantly. And because of this, those expensive, massive flowchart libraries go stale so fast. They often collapse under their own weight before a single AI system is even properly trained, leaving you with partial, outdated junk. Section 2. What AI actually needs. Moving beyond pattern recognition. So if traditional IT workflows are clearly the wrong tool for the job, we really have to ask ourselves, what does AI actually need to move from just recognizing historical data patterns to generating real, actionable business intelligence? If deterministic flowcharts aren't the answer, what is the right input? Well, instead of those classic binary decision diamonds, AI needs structured process context. It absolutely craves explicit inputs. We're talking about business intent, like what is this process actually designed to accomplish in the real world? It needs the causal logic behind decisions. It needs to know what good actually looks like, meaning specific quality thresholds, control limits, and KPIs. It needs the actual business meaning of the data, and crucially, it needs role-based accountability. The AI has to know who owns the outcome. That is the precise information AI requires to genuinely understand your business. Section 3. The IPE Framework Solution. Integrated Process Excellence. This brings us to a really structured alternative developed by John M. Cashotte, which builds on Roger Slater's foundational work. It's called Integrated Process Excellence. Validated over 30 years in highly volatile industries like aerospace and automotive, IPE utilizes this incredibly clean, six-step model to establish a totally change-resilient process infrastructure. It starts by creating a positive environment and defining the process, moves through documentation and communication, and then culminates in measuring, controlling, and continuously improving. It's a methodology that captures exactly the context AI systems demand. What's really fascinating here is the hierarchy. The IPE process model structures knowledge into three distinct levels: area, activity, and element. And this is a total game changer. It allows organizations to capture process knowledge at proportional effort. So you can start assigning accountability and documenting at that 1.1 activity level right now today. This generates immediate AI training value, and then you can deepen down to the element level later on as your capacity allows. Basically, you don't have to wait for 100% perfect process documentation to start getting real AI ROI. Section 4. IPE Packs deliver context, the ultimate delivery mechanism for AI. Let's think about the actual operational artifact you hand over to the AI and why this new approach is just so much better. A traditional IT workflow is basically a static snapshot. If a single step changes on the factory floor, the whole document breaks. But as living knowledge, IPE process context is organized around business intent and causal relationships rather than rigid step-by-step sequences. This means it remains valid even when reality shifts. You literally just update the specific element, not the whole thing from scratch. It is purpose-built to survive business volatility. Because an IPE pack isn't just a flowchart. Not even close. It is a comprehensive 13-section delivery mechanism. It maps out complete input and output definitions with real business context. It captures quality standards, common failure modes, corrective actions, and continuous improvement triggers. When your AI is trained on an IPE pack, it is literally learning the actual business logic driving your enterprise, not just memorizing some sequence of events. Section 5. Governance and AI ROI. Compliance by design. Tying all of this structured knowledge directly to regulatory compliance, and your bottom line really comes down to one simple but honestly profound formula. Data plus process equals AI ROI. Raw operational data without context is just noise. At best, it only produces systems that can parrot historical patterns back to you. Structured process context is the magic ingredient. It's what transforms that raw data into trainable, governable, actionable AI insight. And this structured context, it's exactly what builds the foundation for solid governance. Major frameworks out there like the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, ISO 42001, and that massive sweeping EU AI Act, they all require you to demonstrate that your AI operates within defined auditable boundaries. If you train your models on legacy flowcharts, you instantly have a structural gap because the business objectives aren't documented. But because IPEC explicitly captures intent, KPIs, and control limits by design, the exact same documentation used to train your AI also serves as your automated governance artifact. It is literally compliance built right into the training data. I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. As we rush headfirst into this new future, the competitive advantage won't simply belong to the companies with the most raw data. No way. It's going to belong to the organizations that can answer yes to this one question. Is your AI data grounded in structured, auditable process knowledge? Because if it's not, your AI might be technically functioning, but it's flying completely blind. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this reframes how you look at your own AI deployment strategy.